The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the producer and those appearing in this show and do not necessarily represent the views of DerryCam, the town of Derry, or any of its staff or affiliates.
Hi, I'm Anthony Henry. Welcome back to America's Ass. We're on episode 21. This is the season 3 premiere. It's been a couple weeks. I like to take a break between seasons, just think, get some new guests. I'm really happy to be here today, and we have our special guest, Commissioner Dave Lovlien. So thank you for being here. Take a minute to introduce yourself to my audience.
Well, Anthony, first off, I want to thank you so much and Derry TV for having me on your show, the America's Ass Show. Some of my good friends were here the other week. Representative Wood, Representative Orrs. I saw you had Chuck Morse on the other day. Great guy. So as watching as actual, just a viewer who subscribes to your entertainment, it's awesome now to be here in the seat, actually on the show and not just watching it, right? So a little bit about myself. I am on the Board of Commissioners in Merrimack County, New Hampshire. I proudly represent District 3. District 3 includes Hopkinton, Henniker, Dunbarton, Hooksett, Epsom, Pittsfield, and Allenstown. So 8 wonderful, wonderful towns. This is my first term I'm serving, and it's been a great experience. Aside from governing and politicking, I am a global sales advisor with Sotheby's International Realty in Bedford. So that's about me, politics and real estate.
Well, thank you for coming. I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
And a lot's happened since we last had the show, so We're going to get right into it. We'll start with the situation out in Israel. I'm sure a lot of you have heard it.
Yeah.
With, Hamas bombing Israel, Israel's fighting back. So I'll start with you. Basic thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm glad you start with this because this is very, very serious. And I like to have fun. I like to joke, but this is something we're not going to have fun and joke about. And I knew this was something we would likely discuss on the show. So I was doing a lot of thinking the last few days, like how do I want to address this? And I think the first way I want to address the Israel crisis is by condemning the radical extremists in the Gaza Strip for launching a terrorist attack on the Jewish state of Israel. It was Israel's 9/11. That's disgusting. I'm not going to ascertain why people support people coming in on paragliders with machine guns, mowing people down at a music festival. I go to music festivals, so imagine if I was at a festival in Israel, would I have been? And it's just disgusting. So that's how I want to start it out. It's wrong, sure, we can debate, should Israel do this or do that? But no, when you assault the way the Hamas terrorists did a sovereign state, that's wrong. And whether you like Benjamin Netanyahu or not, Israel has a very strong leader, and I trust him, I respect him as a leader, and he's going to take care of business. And I would be very, very worried right now if I was in the Gaza Strip or Palestinian in general, because they're going to react, and they're going to react big.
So earlier today, I was on Instagram, and I was scrolling, and I saw this picture that was originally posted to the White House account, but they ended up deleting it after a few minutes, and I'll explain why. It was of Joe Biden in his Oval Office, Kamala Harris sitting next to him, and he had about five desk phones around him, and he was calling Prime Minister of Israel Netanyahu.
Yeah.
But it looked like he was asleep in the picture. His eyes were like that, like he usually does, Sleepy Joe. And this kind of brings me to the point I want to make, is that this is just another global military thing that's happened under the Biden presidency. Yeah. And he has sent, whether purposefully or not, he has sent some money to Hamas. And I think this goes back to last year with the fall of Afghanistan. The Ukraine situation began last year as well. And you got to think, would any of this happened under a Republican leader in America? Would a Republican allow this to happen in this world? Or is this just Joe Biden being Joe Biden?
I think you raise a good question. Let's be honest, 75% of America, from what polls show, both Republicans and Democrats, do not want to see a Joe Biden presidency next time around. So the country, even though we don't agree on much, we agree as Americans that Joe Biden's not the right fit. Now, we can say a Republican would do a better job on this. I 110% agree on that. Could another Republican have prevented this? Only one, and that's President Donald Trump. And we know he could have prevented it because nothing like this happened when he was president. Nothing like the Ukraine crisis happened. And what I'm really hoping is we don't just forget about Ukraine because something else has gone on. We need to be serious. And whether you like President Trump or not, he had very solid foreign policy. And he didn't just keep all of us in this room, in this town, in this country safe. He kept the world safe because we are good people here in New Hampshire, here in America. We think a certain way. We want to help people out, even despite our disagreements. That is not the rest of the world. That is not Iran, who chants death to America. That is not Hamas, who, again, commits heinous acts of terrorism. And Joe Biden's clearly not tough. I don't think many Democrats are tough enough. And even if they're tough enough, they're on the wrong side. I saw some Democrat groups post material on Twitter, for example, saying that they're in alignment with the Palestinians on this. And it's like, that's disgusting. So again, it could be a Democrat, could be a Republican, but Trump is the only one that's going to make sure this isn't going to happen.
Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib actually has a Palestine flag outside her office right now.
It's a disgrace. And when you see that, you know that Tlaib supports genocide against the Jewish people. And that's disgusting, and I don't stand for it. We can debate and talk about certain things, but when it comes to human rights, I always stand firm on that.
And going back to Trump's stance on this thing, people forget that Trump was nominated for, I forget if it was 2 or 3, but he was nominated for multiple Nobel Peace Prizes.
Yeah.
Because we did not have any major wars, at least that America was involved in, while he was president. So it's really just sad to see how less peaceful the world is now that Trump's gone. And I'm not even 100% sure if Trump is the right choice. Right now, it looks like he's the front runner. And if he's the front runner, I'm definitely going to support him because anything's better than Biden. But still, like I said, it makes you think, are we better off with Biden in the world in terms of foreign relations?
Not as president.
No, we're not.
No. And anyone who's sober will affirm that. And if someone disagrees with that, maybe they don't follow, I'm not sure, but the majority of Americans, both Democrats included, liberals and progressives, they're on our side. They understand.
Yeah, and I agree. All right, moving on to the next topic. This is it was the biggest topic up until about a couple days ago, the Kevin McCarthy speakership situation. And I've had requests from multiple people to talk about this, including the person that's editing the show today. Hey, Brady. It's just absolute chaos with what happened with McCarthy. We think back to January when he was voted in after a long time. I think it was 15 rounds it took to get him in there because he had so many challengers in the Republican Party because we couldn't unite. And he finally got in after many backroom deals were made to get him in, most notably with Matt Gaetz. And we'll get into Matt Gaetz in a minute. But I think he had a mostly successful speakership. I think he did a lot of good, even if it was from influence from others within the party. But he did get stuff done. And I think anyone that says he didn't get stuff done is wrong. But with what happened a couple weeks ago, he made concessions with Democrats, and some in the Republican Party did not like that. So they did an ousting, and it passed. And now we have a vacant speakership, and we have the chair of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, the majority leader, Steve Scalise, and Representative Kevin Hern, who was one of McCarthy's challengers way back in January. The three of them are running on the Republican side for the speakership. And Hakeem Jeffries is probably going to throw his hat in there, too, on the Dem side. So, it really threw Congress into shambles. It just makes the Republicans look like they can't govern, and it's a little embarrassing. It's almost as bad as it was in January. But, I kind of covered it there. But
I think you have, generally speaking, a fair assessment, full disclosure. I am a proud member of the Grand Old Party, and I'm loyal to the Republican Party. So when I see this infighting, to paraphrase what Trump said a couple weeks ago, he's like, why do the Republicans always fight amongst themselves? That's how I feel. And I like Kevin McCarthy. I'm a young Republican. Back in the day, Kevin McCarthy was a member of the Young Republicans too, so there's loyalty there. But let's be honest, the only people who truly care about this issue are fellow politicos like ourselves, fellow members of the Republican Party, and politicos on the Liberal Democratic side who are kind of laughing at us. But the everyday working Jack and Diane who's doing, 1, 2, 3 jobs, trying to pay the bills, make sure there's, food at home when the kids come home from school. They don't care. They don't care. So this is typical politics. Now, obviously, it's a big deal. He's the first speaker that's ever serving in office that's been removed as Speaker of the House. It's historic. But I don't think the working class of this country cares. They care about they can't afford housing. They can't afford food. They can't afford electricity. They're scared that their sons and daughters are going to go die on one of 2 battlefields right now in Israel, in the Middle East, or in Eastern Europe, in the Ukraine. So that's how I feel personally about the issue. And I'm looking forward, love Kevin McCarthy, but who is going to be the next Speaker of the House? And frankly, I think we have some better options. I mean, I would love to see Jim Jordan as Speaker over Kevin McCarthy. And I love Kevin McCarthy. I like him a lot. But when I hear, oh, Jim Jordan might be Speaker, I go, I like that even more. So that's where I am on the issue.
I agree with that. When I had conversations with some of my friends, I was like you said, I like Kevin McCarthy. I think he did a lot of good. But if he's going to be gone, we should at least see the bright side of it, see if we get someone better.
Yeah, and it's also turning up the heat on the political class, right? I'm a good Republican, but I always try to remember there is a difference between the political class and the working class. And when it comes down to the two, I am 100% on the side of the working class Americans. And Republicans in D.C. need to know that the heat's going to be up and you're going to do your job. And if you're not going to do your job, there's consequences for that. There has to be that line. And if there's no line of repercussion, you're going to always hear people spin, well, we had to work with the Democrats on this and this and that. Compromise is great. But there's some things where you can't give. I do deal making for a living. I'm a great negotiator. And it's not a good deal if you have to give up some of the core things that you need, right? So Republicans going forward with new leadership, hopefully, are able to stop ascertaining with the other side like they always do and at least fight for some conservative principles. Not all, but at least some. And having that heat up on them makes them think about it a little bit more.
I agree. That's a good assessment. All right, switching to a smaller topic, but I still thought it was an interesting topic to talk about. His first name's eluding me, but his name's Mr. Hayden. He used to be the CIA director, and I think he works for NewsGuard now as an advisor. He recently called for the removal from the human race, that's how he phrased it, I believe, of Senator Tommy Tubervile. And calling for the assassination of a U.S. senator is obviously a really big deal, especially if it's the former CIA director. Yeah, it's not good.
No, and he should be investigated, arrested, prosecuted, and if found guilty, imprisoned. You can't just go around saying that, especially as a former director of the CIA, okay? We can, again, disagree on lots of things, but when you're a former director of the CIA calling for the assassination of a sitting U.S. senator, that's abhorrent, that's disgusting, and it makes you think, he's not in the position anymore. But if he's saying that now, he definitely had similar thoughts about other people he disagreed with when running the most powerful and influential intelligence agency on the planet. So it makes you think, are the same people putting all these indictments against President Trump of the same cloth, if you will, running the FBI, the justice system? Not all. There's a lot of great men and women in it, but there's a lot that truly hate us and don't want to see us around.
The comparison I was going to make was JFK. There's all those theories that the CIA was involved in the plot to kill Kennedy.
Yes.
Watch the movie JFK from the 90s. It's a 3-hour movie, but it's excellent. And yeah, the CIA has been shady for a long time, as has the FBI with Director Comey and Director
The
Ray.
NSA. Let's not forget
NSA.
about the NSA. I'm not a huge Edward Snowden guy. There's some things I don't respect that he did. But one thing he did that was wonderful is he rang the bell and said, look, the federal government's spying on you. And that's a lot of Republicans that support that. I'm a Republican, and that's wrong because I'm a true conservative. And as a conservative, we believe in people's rights, like right to privacy.
Patriot Act.
So even though if they're a Republican, right, and they're saying, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to hide, they're not a conservative. They're a person you should be worried about.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to move on to you. What have you been doing on the Merrimack County Commission? What have you been doing in your other political ventures?
Definitely.
Go ahead.
So time to switch gears a little bit, to say the least. And I want to say this. As a county commissioner, my job in that role is not to politic. Okay? What I just did right now, telling you about my personal opinions, that's politicking. An elected leader like myself, when you're in that position, you have to govern, right? And politicking and governing are not the same. So when I'm at the Merrimack County Board of Commissioners, the other commissioners are there, the other heads of departments, our county attorney, sheriff, they all arrive. I'm very pleased to say that we're a very diverse group, lots of different opinions, but we leave our politics at the door because we are most concerned with doing our job for the people of Merrimack County. This is my first term. I ran last year. The primary actually ran as a write-in candidate, and I won that, which was unbelievable. It was an uphill battle from the start, but I did it. I did it the old-fashioned way, retail politics. You go door to door to door, shake the hands, listen to the people, your constituents, and help people out too. That goes a long way. We won the primary, won it big as a write-in. We went to the general election. And we just did the same thing. And I had just so much fun on the campaign. It went by like a blink of an eye. I won almost by 6%. So which that's quite a bit. Then I remember I was so tired, like after the campaign, but there's no break. There's no break. They usher you right in for training. And I don't necessarily want to say networking, but hooking you up with the right people to counsel you. And then I got sworn in early January. Judge Kissinger in Merrimack County, he swore me in. It was an honor and a privilege to get sworn in by him. He's a good guy, in my opinion. And then that's really about it. Again, this is my first term, my first year, but it's been great. So as the county commissioner, we are the executive branch of the county government. So we oversee a budget that's a little over $100 million. We oversee the jail, nursing home, county attorney's office, county sheriff's office, and a bunch of things under that. And basically our job as the executives, we're kind of like the CEO of this big corporation, just make sure it's running well. And what I like about the executive branch the most, and it's very different from the legislative branch, is as the executive branch, we don't just debate and go back and forth and share theories. We actually roll up our sleeves, Anthony, and we get to work. So to get to work for the 154,000 residents in Merrimack County, I love that. That's where I get my kicks.
So a while back, we had Brian Chirichello on the show.
Yep, great guy.
He's on the town council in Derry, and he's our Rockingham County commissioner. So I'm sure there's plenty, but what are the similarities between Rockingham County Commission and Merrimack County? And if there's any differences, what are they?
I think the answer might be more boring than what you're looking for.
Boring's okay. I want people to learn.
There's a lot of similarities. I believe, and he might correct me on this, but I believe Rockingham County is the first largest county population-wise in the state. It might be Hillsborough, but I'm pretty sure it's Rockingham. So they have a bigger budget. I believe, have more county employees. Their departments are bigger. But at the end of the day, the gist of it is the same. What I just described, the Board of Commissioners, all the different departments under it, like sheriff, jail, county attorney, they're dealing with the same stuff. We actually have our New Hampshire Association of Counties Summit later this month in Manchester. So I'll be there for the several days they're hosting it. I'll be talking to people like Brian and all the other commissioners from across this great state.
So obviously you're on the younger side. You were a newcomer to politics when you ran.
25, yeah.
25.
Yeah.
So what was that like, running as a younger Republican or younger politician against people that may have been more established than you?
You know, I always thought before I ran that, as a younger person, I would be like pushed out and kind of put on the back burner. And with some people, yes, but with most people, they welcomed me into Republican politics. They wanted young people. They were happy to see, people, frankly, under 50 years old, like get engaged, right? And I'm half that, 25. So a lot of my preconceived notions were wrong. I had a ton of support from across my district, from the party, both at the state level, all the way down to the local levels. So as a young person, I was very happy to have the backing of my party, my people, my neighbors, my community, my constituents. And I wasn't judged. They said, this is great. We need more young people like you to run. And that's a big message I have to everyone out there. If you are a young person, run for office. Doesn't have to be county commissioner. It could be state rep. It could be, local town council. And despite the political climate of today, in New Hampshire, politics and local governing, it is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. So it's not all bad. I want to dispel that myth.
Politics is the major league sport of New Hampshire.
Yes.
And that's a message that I'm trying to get across with my show. It's one of the reasons I created it. Mainly, not only so that I could have my own outlet to give my views the way I want to give them, I want people like my classmates at Pinkerton to learn more about politics, not just get stupid headlines from the news that are distorted. Learn. Not
just distorted, lies. I want to be very clear. I mean, the media in this country, for the most part, and I'm not talking about local journalism. I love local journalism. I used to write for In-Depth New Hampshire. I read, the New Hampshire Bulletin. I read my local patch. But when we're talking about Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, I mean, these are fake news sources. I don't even read them.
Yeah, like you said, people read a headline and they end up getting the wrong idea.
Yeah.
And the idea with my show is to get real people that live this thing, like Commissioner Lovlien, and talk about it. Talk about what's really going on. And I don't think it's as divided as people think, too.
Yes and no. The problem when it comes to division is there's lots of things we can disagree on, right? But there's some things, if we want to be a functioning society, we can't. We have to have some core values. So when I see, for example, certain members, and it's a strong minority in the Democrat Party, and I know these people, and they chant, death to Israel, we stand with Palestine. That's not a value that we can disagree on in a society like this. Now, we can disagree on tax policy, zoning, things like that. But we always have to remember there are people out there who hate this country and who hate Israel, right? And who hate, at a larger level, Western Judeo-Christian values. We have to share those values. And if we don't, we're in for a tough ride. Now, on the bright side, half cup full, I do believe America, though we're crazy right now, and very messy, but that's democracy. We couldn't do what we do in China or Russia, so thank God we can do it here. There's a lot of good to see so many people say, let's, donate money or sleeping bags, whatever it is, to Ukraine, food. And we're going to start to see that with Israel, the way we came out and supported, not the government, but the people, supported Maui. That's what restores my human faith. When I see fellow Americans coming together, leaving politics aside and saying, how can we help real human beings, right? So the bad and the good.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to make, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good humanity in the world.
Tons of it.
Yeah. So another question I'll ask you before we end, what are some of the bigger, votes you've had to make on the commission this year? Like some bigger decisions that got some headlines or whatever.
So we had, and I don't have the exact numbers in my head, but we had approved as a county to enter a contract, I believe, for 2 years to purchase a large sum of fuel. And the question we were posed with is, do we buy now and get it at the current rate? Or do we wait and buy later, hoping it's going to go down? So we all thought about it, and we all reached the same conclusion. We know we have a fair price right now. And with all the volatility going on in the world of Ukraine, now Israel, we said, we're if we were betting, we'd probably bet that gas goes up again. We didn't know that several months ago in the spring, right? But our bet was right, because now we're going to see fuel skyrocket with the invasion of Israel, the crisis that happened the other day, and then all the other inner workings of the Middle East. So it just goes to show how even on a hyper-local level, a small place like Merrimack County, New Hampshire, 154,000 people, global events do impact us. Now, if we had decided to wait and we bet that fuel would come down, we would have lost the bet, and the budget would have grown in regards to that line item of fuel for the next couple years that the taxpayer would pay because of outside global conflict. So do you follow me there?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So
That's one big decision.
yeah, decisions can impact a long time, whether you realize it or not. So we are just about out of time. So Commissioner, please feel free to give a closing statement.
Yeah, so again, I want to thank you for having me on the America's Ask Show, and thank you to Dairy TV for producing this. I've had a lot of fun today, and I think in closing, I have two messages, and the first one's for all people. If you want to see change in the world, you have to stand up and be that change. None of us have a magic wand. If we did, this would be a totally different world. It'd be a really good place. But it does start at home. Be a good mother, father, brother, sister, whatever that may be. At your work, be a good employee. Get engaged, run for school board, town selectman, state rep. And if more individuals start to do that, that truly do it out of love and not anger, love their community, love their neighbors, we'll start to see slowly but surely a good change for the better across the board for Republicans, Democrats, everybody up and down. The second message I have is for young people. A lot of us young people are waiting for the torch to be handed to us. It will never be handed to you. You can just stand up and grab the torch now. You can be nice about it, but take power. One of the problems we have today is because a lot of young people aren't standing up to the plate and taking the torch. So whoever you are, step up to the plate, take the torch, but especially if you're younger. And that's really all I want to say, but I'll thank you a third time because I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you coming on. And before we end, I'll give one brief life update. About a week ago, I was appointed to the New Hampshire Youth Legislative Advisory Council.
Congratulations.
Thank
I'll shake
you.
your hand for that. That's excellent.
I remember you saying that you were on the council yourself when you were
appointed by Governor Maggie Hassan, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I was appointed by Senate President Jeb Bradley. I
Nice.
believe the first meeting's in November. I could be wrong. They haven't really set a date yet. But yeah, it's a statutory committee of the General Court that gives advice on bills. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's right up my alley. We had James Tebow on the show. He's the chairman. We had him back in August, I want to say, I think. Maybe it was September, but we had him on. I'm really looking forward to starting. And yeah, season 3 is starting. I can't wait to keep going. I'm Anthony Henry. This has been America's Ask. Thank you for watching.